He's a very good boy. Okay, goodbye. Hi everyone, welcome to my BookTube channel. I'm C1 and I love to read. Today I'm going to be reviewing Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. This book is about a girl named Bree whose mother dies in a car accident. When she goes away to a new school, she witnesses a magical attack, and this helps unlock memories of the night her mother died. And she starts to suspect that her mother's death may have been connected to this magical society. So she infiltrates this society in order to gain information and discover more about her own mysterious powers, and the story unfolds from there. I absolutely loved this book. I originally rated it 4 stars, but I just keep thinking about it, and I'm going to bump that up to 5 stars because it really is a spectacular book. I love Bree as our female protagonist. She is a strong woman, but she has flaws and vulnerabilities and insecurities, and we get to see those being in her head with the first person narration. I love Bree as our female protagonist. She's really strong, but she also has flaws, insecurities, and vulnerabilities, which I love. And I feel like we often don't see that in female MCs. A lot of the time, they're badass and they fight and they slay monsters and they do all of this cool stuff, but we don't necessarily get to see their weak points. Whereas in this book, we definitely do. She also has a strong support system around her, which I think is really great because a lot of the times fantasy protagonists don't. They're kind of alone in the world and have to forge their own inner strength. But Bree has a lot of great side characters who support her. I love her best friend, Alice. Alice originally knows nothing about the Legendborn world, this magical society, but an event happens that ends up with Bree revealing all to her, and she immediately jumps on board. She's all questions, but she's also all support. And their friendship is just really, really lovely. We love to see female friendship in a book. She also has a really supportive father who is checking in on her and trying to make sure that she's okay and setting her up with like a therapist and stuff, and really wants the best for her. And it's really, really lovely that she has that support. And I love the bond between them. I also love her bond with her male love interest. The thing that's really nice about the romance in this book is they're teenagers, but it feels like an adult romance. Like there's no, we didn't communicate and now we're in a fight, and if we had just talked like adults, this wouldn't have been happening kind of situations. They have moments of conflict, of course, like any relationship, but it doesn't hinge on the fact that they're basically being stupid. And the male love interest is just a really sweet boy. He also is a kick-ass, badass demon slayer, but he has this really sweet, kind, charming personality. And I love a good touch her and you die kind of macho male moment as much as the rest of us, but my favorite male MCs are always the ones who have a little bit of a softer side to them, and this one definitely does. I also love the magic systems in this book. There are kind of two that intertwine through the female MC. There's the magic system of the Legendborn, which is the secret society that she infiltrates. There's also this other magic system called Root, which actually there is an author's note about, explaining about how it's based in African traditions, and I think that's really, really cool. It draws a lot on ancestry and in connecting to your heritage and in owning that power and taking strength from those who have come before you. So these two magic systems kind of intertwine because she has the power to manipulate aether, which is the magic that is all around. And that's what the Legendborns call it. But she also has her own aether inside of her, her own root that she inherently has and doesn't have to kind of borrow from the earth or borrow from ancestors. So I love the magic systems. I think it's really cool that there's more than one, and that's really unique. Another thing I loved is the BIPOC and LGBTQ representation in this book. As a BIPOC queer woman myself, I'm always looking for that representation, and it's really nice to see it in this book. And this is a BIPOC written book. Tracy Deonn is Black. Is Black and Alice is Asian. This does become relevant to the story. It explores racism and the way that racism is embedded in institutions. She lives in the South and goes to a very white school, and the dean actually makes a comment when she gets in trouble with the school about how this isn't surprising because of, her Blackness. And there are lots of comments from people in this magical society, the Legendborn Society, about her Blackness as well, because it's basically an old white boys club. And women and people of color are really not that accepted. There's also a non-binary character who I love. Their name is Greer, and they're super cool, and they and Bree kind of form a friendship because they're both like outsiders to this world. So I love the way that this story explores very real issues like racism, and grief comes up a lot, trauma comes up a lot, because Bree is traumatized by the loss of her mother and like has this hyperfixation on finding out the circumstances of her death and all of that. And she says early on that she has built a wall within herself, and she thinks of herself as before Bree, who is, before her mother dies, and after Bree, which is who she is after her mother dies. And after Bree is very angry and bitter and hell-bent on revenge and discovering why her mom died and finding justice. And the way that it's written made me cry, especially when she starts to find her way out of that grief. The way it's written, you feel her grief so intensely yourself, and it's really, really beautiful when she starts to find peace within herself. So I think those are all my thoughts on this book. As you can tell, I really loved it. I would recommend this to anyone who loves retellings of old tales, because this is based on the Arthurian legends, the Legend of King Arthur. I would also recommend it to anyone who loves fantasy lore, because there's a lot of that in here. The Legendborn Society has a whole lineage. They're very based in the history of their ancestors, and this is the way it's always been, and the lineage and the prestige of basically the Legendborn nobility and all of this stuff. So there's so much lore. There's so much interesting magic in it, but it's not a high fantasy. It is based in the real world. So if you're looking for something with a lot of lore, but you don't want to have to deal with all of the world building that comes with starting a high fantasy, this book is definitely for you. And this book is for anyone who's looking for more BIPOC and queer representation on their reading list. As I said, this book made me very happy as a BIPOC queer woman myself, and I just loved everything about it. So those are my thoughts. If you've read Legendborn, let me know what you thought in the comments. If you're new here, like and subscribe. If you're returning, thank you so much for sticking with me, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!